So this movie is called Dark Summer, and it's coming out in winter 2015, so that sounds like a choice to me, but whatever. So Dark Summer is a kind of independently produced, thoughtful kind of horror film. I kind of use the word horror loosely on this film. It's kind of a supernatural drama, I guess, or a, you know, more along the lines of, there's not a lot of horror here. There is a little bit towards the end, but it's kind of a very unique feel to it, this film. This is going to be the kind of the main thing that separates this film from kind of the pack, really. Because the story itself is sort of a kind of standard haunting, ultimately. You know, a guy kind of in his house and being haunted by a kind of a spirit. But it has a very sort of unique feel. And that feel is sort of independent, arty cinema. So it kind of has this weird sort of vibe to it. So let me tell you a little bit more about the plot. So essentially it focuses on this young guy who is on house arrest. He's got one of those ankle bracelets that doesn't kind of allow him to leave his kind of property, otherwise he gets a visit from the police. And he's visited every so often by his parole officer, played by Peter Stormare. And essentially what he's done, he's kind of been stalking this girl that he sort of fancies, and he's sort of hacked into her email account and her social network, and it does have a little bit of social commentary on sort of social networking, really. And because of that, he's kind of been labelled as a bit of a stalker. Anyway, he's kind of a bit of an introvert. He's got these sort of two friends that sort of pop over every so often. And, you know, he doesn't really know how to talk to women, and basically his excuse is he just wants to kind of get to know her, etc. But she apparently is obviously a little bit freaked out by it, hence why he's under arrest. But he's actually contacted by her whilst he's under house arrest and sort of sees her commit suicide, actually on kind of like a Skype call. And after that, basically, he kind of sees sort of strange things, and it's almost like he's being haunted by the sort of the spirit of this girl. And it's kind of, you know, is he being haunted, or is he kind of going mad, or, you know, all will be explained. And eventually, of course, people don't believe him, but stuff starts to happen, and, you know, as we see, more evidence mounts up and things like that. So I won't sort of go into sort of too much sort of spoilery stuff here, because there are some sort of good things. I think the ideas here aren't too bad. Like I said, I don't think it's massively original. But the plot, I think, has some good ideas, and has had a bit of thought put into some of the kind of the small sort of plots, which is not many major twists here, but there are a few sort of twists and turns, and I think that there has been some good thought in that. But this film, unfortunately, has some crippling disadvantages. I think the style of the film, like I said, is a very sort of arty film, and if you kind of just wanting a kind of a horror film, a scary movie, I think you'll be disappointed with this film. And the main reason is that it's kind of a... It feels like it's been stretched, because this film, not a great deal happens, if I'm completely honest, and it just seems such a slow-moving film. And there's massive chunks of this film, and there's just sort of silence, and there's kind of very little dialogue, and the guy himself is kind of... They're just kind of quiet, almost a weirdo. You know, and unfortunately, it kind of makes him a little bit of a unsympathetic character, because he does seem like a little bit of a kind of strange thing. But it's kind of shot in this style, with this very sort of arty sort of feel to it. And you're almost wondering if you're kind of watching some kind of experimental film or sort of student film and stuff like that, because the style of it just lends itself to that. And if you've seen a great deal of horror films, you might just find it a little bit ponderous. If you're into your sort of, you know, your arty independent film, I guess you may like it a little bit more than I did. But unfortunately, I found the style of it to be quite boring, quite frankly. And it isn't until really kind of the last sort of 20 minutes or so that anything really sort of substance actually happens. There's not a huge amount of effects here, but there are, you know, there are a few sort of spotted around. But it's nothing. I don't think it's, again, it's nothing that, to be honest with you, that's going to kind of make you jump out of your seat. There's not a lot of gore. There's a couple of gore shots towards the end, but nothing. It's not a gory film. It's not meant to be that film. I don't think it's a particularly scary film. It's obviously meant to have this kind of certain sort of level of ambience, and that's I think what it's going for. But I think it misses the mark, and it doesn't come across as kind of scary. But it's just too concerned with kind of being almost thoughtful and kind of, you know, this kind of weird sort of indie sort of feel to it, and it comes across as being pretentious, I personally feel. So I thought the ideas behind it weren't too bad, but I thought the execution, unfortunately, was a little lacking. The performances, on one hand, I don't think they're too bad. I don't think the acting is terrible by any means, but the kind of the direction that this film is going in just puts the actors in this kind of weird, non-talky sort of set pieces basically, and it just comes across as a little bit strange and off kilter for me. So I didn't really like it, I have to say. It was kind of a bit torturous to sit through, but I can kind of see where they were going from. So I'm going to give this movie a 3 out of 10. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.